Do you guys want to see the conflict between Russia and Ukraine end? It's becoming very obvious. I'm sure many of you guys can see what's happening, right? Joe Biden cannot end this. How much money has the United States donated to Ukraine since the start of the war? How much money has NATO countries donated to Ukraine combined? How much of that money has gone into the efforts of fighting the Russians? How much of that money has gone into the pockets of Zelensky and his cabinet? How much of the money has come back to the pockets of Joe and Hunter Biden? It's becoming increasingly obvious that this war is never ever going to end. If you want to end this conflict, there's only one solution. Ukraine must never ever become part of NATO. That is the only solution. It takes the power of the US presidency to end this war. Right now, there's no way Joe Biden can end it. Who can end the war? I would say Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was sworn into office within the next 24 hours, this war would be over. The conflict between Israel and Palestine would be over. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can also end the war. It's becoming increasingly obvious that the US government does not want to end this war. They want this conflict to rage on for as long as possible. Can't you see what's happening? Both sides of the conflict. Look at what's happening between Israel and Palestine. Both sides of the war are being funded by NATO. It's our taxpayers' money that's funding this war. Look at what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, right? So let's say how much money has NATO donated to Ukraine. I would say at least 200 billion US dollars. How does Russia get their money? Who do you think built Nord Stream Pipeline 1 and Nord Stream Pipeline 2? They get their money from other EU member states, from countries like Germany and France. They get their money from China. How does China get their money? Who do you think is the number one trading partner for China? The United States of America. Okay, whose fault do you think this is? You say this is an unprovoked war, right? And this is all because of Putin, all because of Russia, all because of their war machine. Okay, let me tell you guys something. I'm sure way back in 1962, many of you guys know this one of the most famous incidents that takes place in world history. That's the closest we have been to all nuclear war. Oh, you say, okay, it was the Soviets' fault. They put missiles, right, on the coast of Florida, and they were aimed at Washington, D.C. Almost all 50 U.S. states were within striking distance. Well, whose fault was it? Okay, listen, the Soviets didn't put those missiles in Cuba first. It was the Americans. They put their missiles in Turkey and Italy. And that's what led to the retaliation by the USSR. Okay, can't you see what's happening between China and Taiwan? Okay, it is called the South China Sea for a reason. Whatever happens between China and Taiwan, that's their own dispute. You leave it to them. Okay, let them solve that between themselves. Okay, why the USA is so obsessed with the island of Taiwan? Can't you see that the USA wants to make Taiwan a US ally, and they're trying to expand NATO to the coast of China? And let's say if one day, I don't think it will ever happen, if Taiwan were to join NATO, what do you think has happened? You don't think NATO countries, especially the United States, will actually put their missiles there and have them pointed straight at mainland China? You don't see who's the aggressor here? Back in 1990, the US Secretary of State, James Baker, he met up with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, the final Soviet leader, and to discuss the plans for the world moving forward as the Soviet Union faces its dissolution. And the United States, along with NATO, agreed to the Soviet Union in order to exchange for the fact that the Soviet Union would withdraw 400,000 troops from East Berlin. NATO agreed to never ever expand, not even 1 inch. Not 1 inch to the east. They made this agreement all the way back in 1990. What the hell do you think has happened since then? NATO has expanded all the way to the Russian border. Look at the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and now with Finland joining NATO. So who's the aggressor here? Who has pushed, is it Russia that has pushed closer to NATO, or has NATO expanded way too close to Russia? Do you know why Russia is shrinking? I don't mean by their land. I mean their population. Do you know why it's constantly shrinking? The number one reason is not because of people are leaving. Do you know what happened way back in World War II when Nazi Germany invaded Stalin's Soviet Union? 26 million Soviet soldiers died. 26 million, 14% of their population. Operation Barbarossa. along with the Soviets' counterattack Operation Bagration, was absolutely brutal. It was the deadliest battlefield during World War II. The vast majority of the people that died during the war on the Eastern Front were men. During the Battle of Stalingrad, 2.5 million soldiers perished. If you look at the demographics of Russia, in fact, all of the former Soviet satellite states, the reason why their population is constantly shrinking, if you look at the man that was born in the Soviet Union between the years of 1920 to 1924, over 80% of them died before the year of 1945, before Victory Day in Europe. That's what war does. So now if you go to many of these former Soviet satellite states, what you see is that if you go to a small suburb, a small village, you'll see maybe 5, 6, 7,000 bunch of old ladies, never married, who don't have any children, because there are no men. There's way more women than men. It's the opposite issue of China, where there's way more men versus women due to a gender selective abortion during the one-child policy and child infanticide. But Russia and then all of these Eastern European countries have the exact opposite issue. Poland lost 17% of their population during World War II because all of the young men have been killed. So it creates a bottleneck in the population demographic. This is why they want the extra buffer state. And when the Soviet Union dissoluted back in 1991, Russia no longer has this buffer state between themselves and the West. Listen, the West caused this, okay? Putin should have never ever gone into Ukraine. It's absolutely wrong. This special military operation, whatever he calls it. Right now, hundreds of thousands have died since the start of this war, and it's not going to end. If you want the war to end, Trump must come back to office. I understand he's not the perfect man, okay? He's had his issues, I understand. But listen, with Joe Biden in office, this war is never ever going to end. I'm sure you guys can all see what's happening by now. How much money has Joe Biden taken from Ukraine? How much money has Hunter Biden taken from Ukraine? If you guys don't think that the United States is obsessed with war, here, I put together a very short list. This is just a very small list of many of the proxy wars that the USA has been involved in since the end of World War II. We have the Korean War. The USA was involved in that. The first Sudanese Civil War. The USA was involved. The Suez Canal crisis in 56 to 57, the United States was involved. The Congo crisis between 1960 to 1965, where the USA went in and kidnapped, brutally murdered their democratically elected leader. This is right before John F. Kennedy was sworn into office. We have the North Yemen Civil War between 62 to 70, the United States was involved in that. We have the Dhofar Rebellion, 62 to 76, the United States was involved in that. The Sand War in 63, the United States was involved in that. The Rhodinian-Bush War between 64 to 79, the United States was involved in that. The Dominican Civil War in 65, the United States was involved. The Chadian Civil War, United States was also involved. The Bolivian campaign, United States was involved. The South African border war between 66 to 90, United States was involved every part of the way. The Nigerian Civil War between 67 to 70, the United States military was involved. Operation Condor between 68 to 89, United States was involved. The Al-Wadiya War in 69, the United States was involved. Okay. The Yemenite War in 72, the United States was involved. The Angolan Civil War, once again, United States was involved. The Ethiopian Civil War, United States was involved. Lebanese Civil War, 75 to 90, United States military was once again involved. The Western Sahara War, United States was involved. The East Timor occupation, United States was involved. The Shaba I, United States was involved. The Cabinda War, the United States has been involved. The Ogaden War, United States was involved. The Cambodia War, United States was involved. The Vietnam War, United States was involved. The Mozambican Civil War, United States has been involved. Shaba II, United States has been involved. The Chadian-Libyan conflict, United States has been involved. Which country went into Afghanistan back in 2001? Who invaded Iraq in 2003, claiming that there was weapons of mass destruction and killed over 1 million civilians? Do you know why the USA wanted Muammar Gaddafi dead? But I want you guys to really think about this. Okay, do you know why the USA is so obsessed with war? It's very simple. Look at the USA military budget. Close to $900 billion a year. That's where your tax dollars is going because war generates money. The more conflict and the more wars the USA generates, the more the top 1% profits, while the 99% suffers. As of right now, how many US military bases do you think are stationed around the world? Okay, What do you think? 50? 100? 150? 815. 815 military bases stationed worldwide. How many military bases do you think China has overseas? What do you think? 20? 30? 1. China has 1 military base in Djibouti. That's it. The USA stopped caring about its people. It sold its souls to these weapons manufacturers. The government sold their souls to their donors and their lobbyists. These people lay in the shadows. These are the people who support Hillary Clinton. These people are like Hydra. You cut off one head and 2 more will take this place. It's a never-ending parasite. These people like George Soros, people like Larry Silverstein, people like Bill Gates. It's time we shut down each one of these military bases worldwide and bring the troops home. The United States needs to focus on protecting its people to secure its own borders. It's not the job of the United States to be the world police, to be involved in every single border dispute. So if you have stayed until this point, and if you're wondering why should you care? Well, because I care. I care about the truth. The truth is the most important value we have in life. And in order to search for the truth, that often opposes a threat to power. And in order to find the truth, one usually has to take on a great risk for themselves. The West used to be the most sane, the most just, the most equitable, the most advanced, the best society in the world. But I am watching a civilization falling apart. It's just like reliving the fall of the Roman Empire. The government stopped caring about its people. Over 50% of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. We can't secure our own borders, and we're worried about every single border dispute worldwide. The rent for my apartment in Ottawa just went up by $200 a month during this school year. I'm forced to work a minimum 25 hours a week on top of school in order to just make basic end meet. Meanwhile, our communist circus clown prime minister, he donates another $650 million to Ukraine. The woke left ideology. They want to divide us by vaccination status, by your political beliefs, by which party you support, by your gender, by your race, by your religion. They want to constantly pit us against each other. They want to do this so that we cannot unite as one, to fight the real evil, to wake up to see what's really happening in this world. If you still believe that the West is a democracy, if you still believe that this is a government by the people, of the people, and for the people, then it's time for you to wake up. You flip the coin by not asking what your country can do for you. You ask yourself what you can do and what you're willing to do for your country. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, which one is it going to be? The decision's up to you.